Wrestling is stupid, as the meme suggests. My sister actually sent me that meme recently. I don't know why. We weren't discussing wrestling or anything. Full disclosure, I did used to watch wrestling. I got into it when I was younger. People at school were talking about it. They kept talking about it. They were saying all kinds of quotes and phrases that wrestlers were using. And I thought to myself, I want to watch this and see what it is they're so obsessed about. And I started watching it and then I got into it. A lot of time in my life wasted. But wrestling is stupid. The meme says it right there. Two guys with no pants fighting for a belt. Actually, it's even more absurd than that because it's two guys with no pants pretending to fight for a belt. That is essentially the premise of wrestling. You create fake feuds and rivalries between people. They trash talk each other for a while. They sometimes attack each other backstage and in various areas, parking lots, etc. And then eventually that builds up to a match between them, a wrestling match at a big event that people are supposed to be excited to want to watch because these people can't stand each other, so this should be great. Over the years when I watched wrestling, there was a lot of really stupid content. Lots of scantily clad women, of course, used as eye candy. All kinds of obscene and crude gestures and comments. There was a crotch chop that used to be done, and if you don't know what that is, let's keep it that way. But people would basically do a crotch chop, that's what it's known as, and they would chant two words. The first word, a four-letter word beginning with S, and the second word was it. And I won't tell you what they were saying. It's absurd, and I could see it was absurd for a long time, and I sometimes asked myself when I was staying up late to watch it, because this was happening in the USA, of course, the WWE, previously known as the WWF. The World Wrestling Federation, but they actually had to change their name because the World Wildlife Fund of the same initials decided that they didn't want to share initials with a company that was producing the kind of content they were producing, so they changed their name to the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. But as I was saying, I remember staying up late to watch this thinking, why am I staying up late to watch this? And eventually, after contemplating not watching anymore numerous times, finally there was a storyline that made me stop, pretty much. And that was a storyline with the then owner, Vince McMahon. And a lot of things have come out about Vince McMahon more recently, basically about how much of a disgusting sexual abuser he's been. And he has left the WWE now. But he was involved in this storyline. It was him and his son Shane McMahon, and they were going to be fighting Shawn Michaels, a born-again Christian, in real life. And that was also used in the storyline. And God. Yes, you heard that right. It was going to be Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon fighting Shawn Michaels and God in a wrestling match. So anyway, that brings me to the topic of the video. Why Christians should boycott WrestleMania. WrestleMania, for those again who aren't really big into wrestling, it's the big event of the year for the WWE. It's like the Super Bowl for the NFL. Or the Champions League here in Europe and in other continents. It's the big event. It's the big one. The big matches, the big stars. It's in a huge arena. It's promoted a lot. Now, I don't know if you've noticed anything here about this poster here promoting WrestleMania. If there's anything you can see there that would suggest that perhaps the WWE has no respect for Christians and Christianity. Normally, when the WWE announces WrestleMania, they pick a date that isn't Easter because they know that a lot of people in America are Christians, and at Easter they're going to be busy celebrating Easter. So they make sure not to try and compete with Easter. But on this occasion, they've stopped caring because even though many of the people who watch their product are very likely to be Christians, and even though many of their own competitors may also be Christians and may also want to spend this time with their family, they've decided to put on this year's WrestleMania, a two-day event. It used to be a one-day event. Now it's a two-day event, not just Sunday, but also Saturday on Easter weekend. And ironically enough, it's also taking place in Las Vegas, a place where people go to gamble, drink, do drugs, and fornicate. That's where they're setting WrestleMania on Easter weekend. So if that isn't a middle finger to Christians and Christianity, essentially saying, listen, we don't care if you have your most important religious festival of the year at this time, we're going to put our biggest event on at the same time and compete with you, then I don't know what is. Because, in the past, they would try to avoid putting WrestleMania on at the same time as Easter, because WrestleMania normally happens, I think, around the beginning of April, and Easter often happens around that time as well. So they would usually pick a date that wasn't during Easter, not because they respected Christianity, but just because they didn't want to compete with Christianity. They knew they wouldn't get a big audience, or as big an audience as they could have gotten, if they put it on at the same time as Easter. But it seems now they've stopped caring. So my urge to you, if you're a Christian and if you're a wrestling fan, if you still watch wrestling, is to boycott WrestleMania. Don't watch it, and most certainly don't watch it live, because you should be doing other things during that time. And even better still, boycott the WWE and stop watching wrestling if you can. Thanks for watching the video. Have a blessed